Today I'm going to share with you a baked feta cheese recipe without pasta. Yep, this is a baked feta recipe with peppers, onions, and spaghetti squash. You can make some of these things in the Instant Pot or just use the oven to roast all the vegetables. I can't wait to take you in the kitchen today and show you how to throw together this super easy baked feta appetizer. You know, it's been a really popular thing on TikTok lately. The baked feta TikTok craze is still going strong, but I think this is one of my favorite recipes for baked feta. Let me take you in the kitchen and show you how to make it today. So first things first, you have to cook the spaghetti squash. So to cook spaghetti squash in the Instant Pot, you just slice the squash in half the short way, not horizontally, the short way in the middle. And then you add the steamer insert to the bottom of the Instant Pot plus 1 cup of water. And you add the 2 spaghetti squash halves and pressure cook them on high for 7 minutes with the top dial moved to seal. So after they're done in the Instant Pot, just those 7 minutes, once it's all complete, you move the vent dial to release to quickly release the pressure. And once the steam stops, remove squash from the Instant Pot. Now, if you want to make the spaghetti squash in the oven, you just have to preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You slice the squash in half the same way. You take out the insides, and then you brush the spaghetti squash with olive oil, so then it can go right on parchment paper and go into the oven to cook for about 30 to 40 minutes. You could actually cook it simultaneously about as cooking the baked feta dish. When the spaghetti squash is cooking, that's a good time to work on making the rest of the ingredients for the baked feta with peppers, onions, and the spaghetti squash. So it's a good time to start dicing up all of those peppers and onions and getting them ready to go in the baking dish. Now, I had really stockpiled some feta cheese in my fridge. I got this at Costco, so you really only need an 8-ounce block of feta. So one package like this will actually make 2 different baked feta dishes, and the more baked feta, the better. All right, so preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and add the block of feta to the center of a large baking dish. A circle cake dish or oval baking dish like the one I'm using here is perfect. And then you just add in the red onion, red pepper, yellow pepper, and garlic around the feta. I like to do them kind of in different sections because I find it very visually pleasing, but you could also scatter them around to make a colorful dish. So the next thing you do is you drizzle olive oil on top of all of that good vegetableness. I don't think that's a word, but vegetableness is what I'm going for. And then you sprinkle on some red pepper flakes, some dried oregano, salt, and black pepper all over the feta and vegetables. And then you can gently toss that mixture together with the vegetables and the feta block with a spoon. So you gently coat them with seasonings and olive oil. And then you're ready to roast. So go ahead and roast the whole mixture in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes or until the vegetables are roasted and the feta is creamy and starting to brown. Now, what's going on with that spaghetti squash? You gotta go tend to that. So you remove the baked feta mixture from the oven and immediately serve it by adding on all of the spaghetti squash to a plate and then spoon the baked feta and vegetable mixture on top. And then you're ready to sprinkle with fresh herbs and enjoy. So what's going on here is that you made the spaghetti squash separately because it's kind of replacing the idea of pasta, and then you made the roasted vegetables and the feta block together, and then to serve it, to bring it all together, you put on a generous pile of that spaghetti squash on a plate, the vegetables on top, and some of that feta on top. Now you could just kind of stir them all together in the bowl, but I think this is the most beautiful plating for baked feta with peppers, and if you're gonna serve it to a crowd, this is definitely how I'd recommend doing it. Doesn't that look delicious and beautiful? That's kind of what I was going for here. If you like the idea of making your own sauces because they taste so good when they're homemade, you have to check out my new recipe for spinach basil pesto. It's made with walnuts and a little lemon, which really brightens up the flavor. This is a really easy recipe to make. Even if you've never made a pesto, you'll be really good at making it. You just need to have a food processor. So if you want to take your pasta night to the next level, go ahead and find my spinach basil pesto recipe at sipbitego.com. If you love to eat delicious food, make sure to subscribe to the Sipbitego channel on YouTube. I have so many delicious recipes heading your way. Subscribe today. Well, I hope you're so excited to make this, I guess, gluten-free baked feta with peppers, onions, and spaghetti squash. It really adds a lot of vegetables to your diet, and it leaves room so you could put something delicious on the side, like a protein. Maybe you want some chicken. I have a delicious caprese chicken recipe that would be so good with this. Well, until next time, don't forget to check out another recipe from Sipbitego. I make a ton of really easy recipes for you to be able to pull off how to make them in your kitchen. Don't worry, they're not complicated at all, and they all look as delicious as this baked feta. Well, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful and delicious day. Cheers!